Hey, what's going on guys? JayzTwoCents here, and today we are going to answer the question that has been on everybody's mind.
When the hell is the R9 390X gonna launch?
And my answer to that question is, I have absolutely no idea. So we're going to move into question number 2, which is ultra-wide 21:9 aspect ratio gaming really all it's cracked up to be? I don't know, we're gonna find out in this video. This one right now. The new EVGA Silent Series power supplies offer excellent silence and efficiency through their new EVGA Eco Mode technology, and also features a 7-year warranty for worry-free gaming. Click the link in the description to learn more. Well guys, sitting on the test bench behind me, we have LG's brand new 34UM67 TN IPS 2560 by 1080p 21:9 aspect ratio FreeSync panel. We took a look at this thing at CES, and this was one of the first panels being marketed as utilizing AMD's FreeSync technology. So that's why I actually have an AMD card sitting on the bench. Now for the AMD card we're going to be using to test this today, it is the Asus Matrix 290X. So we're going to actually see how FreeSync works with this bad boy. But there's 3 things that are kind of puzzling about the specs of this monitor. One, it is obviously being touted as a gaming monitor with the fact that it has FreeSync. If you weren't gaming on it, who the hell cares whether or not it has FreeSync technology built in? But that being that it's also an IPS panel. Now, IPS panels tend to have much slower pixel refresh rate or response time when it comes to games or anything fast motion. Anything over 5 milliseconds is kind of considered slow by today's day and age, especially when you compare them to TN panels, which are anywhere from 1 to 2, especially like the Asus ROG Swift, which is a 1 millisecond panel, or even the new Acer XB280HK, sorry, I can't remember that, which is a 4K panel, but TN with a 1 millisecond response time. So it kind of makes you wonder, FreeSync with IPS, who exactly is their demographic? And the other thing being that it's a 21:9 aspect ratio, which means it's not going to be as widely utilized when it comes to a lot of your games as, you know, the standard 16:9 or 16:10 ratio that we've been accustomed to for years, leading to you having to hack some of your registry files to get a lot of your games to utilize that space without giving you just a black bar on the side of the screen. Now, because this thing is an IPS panel though, I'm more interested in, personally, I would be more interested in this panel for productivity and workflow, things like video color correction or, you know, Photoshop. Once the screen is calibrated, even though it's IPS, it still does need to be calibrated out of the box to become perfect. But still, the colors are going to be much more realistic on an IPS panel than anything TN. Before we move into some of the live gaming and kind of off-the-cuff responses of how I feel about gaming on this thing, let's go ahead and talk about some of the physical aspects of this. Now, as mentioned, this is a 34-inch panel. They do also have a 29-inch edition out there as well. But because this thing is so wide and so short in terms of height, I find 34 inches to kind of be the perfect sweet spot, where 29 is just way too small. I want to say that's what she said joke, but that's just ridiculous. Now, it does have a little bit of tilt adjustment, but it has absolutely no swivel and no height adjustment built into the base. You get 2 options when it comes to height. You have to completely unbolt it and rebolt it in those 2 different positions to give you any sort of height adjustment. But because the thing has an acrylic base plate on there, or stand, or whatever you want to call it, it does kind of give it a neat free-floating sort of effect to it. But then that's kind of completely killed off by the fact that you can now see the cables running behind the acrylic piece there, and now that kind of kills the fact that it felt like it was floating. Otherwise, the panel does feel like it's being suspended in midair, which is kind of a neat effect. Controlling the on-screen stuff is very simple through a joystick that's pretty much built in underneath the bottom of the middle of the screen. I call it a joystick. It's really just more like a D-pad that you can just move around and go to different on-screen options. Now, built into the menu option, there is also refresh time adjustment on there with high, middle, and low and off, where basically you can, I guess, take over some control of the response time of the pixels. I guess we'll kind of play around with that a little bit in the live testing. I'm not entirely sure exactly how that's going to work out. Now, when it comes to the FreeSync, one of the things that a lot of people have said about this panel that seems to be kind of odd is the fact that the FreeSync range is only effective between 48 and 75 hertz. But that's a really weird range considering at this resolution, 2560 by 1080, it is possible for non-high-end graphics cards, things like the 290X or the 290 or even the 285 or the 285 or 280X, to dip down below that 48 hertz. Now, high-end cards are going to be hurt by this, considering the fact that they are going to be slowed down to 75 hertz. So it's one of those things where it's a really strange range of why 48 to 75 was picked, considering the panel vendors pretty much are the ones that are able to control the range at which these monitors are going to be responding at when it comes to FreeSync. Now, there are multiple inputs on this thing, DVI, HDMI, and DisplayPort, but if you want to use FreeSync, you have to use the DisplayPort because FreeSync is using DisplayPort 1.2 as its standard for using FreeSync. So anyway, let's go ahead and turn around. Let's get into playing some games on this thing, and let's just kind of get some first-hand experience on what it's like gaming on this thing. I'm not too concerned about the refresh rate or FreeSync or any of that personally. I kind of care more about the aspect ratio of 21:9.
Transition.
Now, the amount of real estate you have here is definitely no joke. I mean, it's pretty much two perfect squared screens side by side, not even a 4:3. Let's go ahead and let's try an FPS first. We'll go ahead and try some Battlefield 4. Sorry guys, I don't have Hardline installed on this machine yet. So here we are in the Battlefield 4 test range. You can see, or maybe you can't, I don't know. If we go over here to the monitor settings, we do have FreeSync currently on. It's right there. And so you can see that also on the side here, we do have two black bars. Now initially I thought that these were going to be probably because maybe the game wasn't working with 21:9, but this is just the menu, because as you can see here, if I hit resume in the game, we do get the entire side back. It's very, very smooth, that's for sure. It doesn't feel like there's any perceived input lag, which that 14 milliseconds could end up, you know, that's what it could feel like. Am I gonna hit that thing? Ooh. So what I want to check here real quick though is what that setting for the response time was and how that actually plays into all of this. So this is found in the picture adjust. There's also a black stabilizer, so you can see here for FPS games we can kind of play around with the blacks a little bit here. Sharpness, you can really make it too sharp if you want. And then response time, as you can see, we've got low, middle, and high. So I'm going to set it to response time high, because technically, I don't know, that makes me think that response is going to be high. Like high response time would be a high number, and that would be bad. So let me make it low now just to compare. I don't know, I don't feel any sort of difference with this. I'm not entirely sure how exactly, let's turn it off. I don't know if that's supposed to be just some sort of an enhancement or what. Doesn't really feel any different to me though. Boom! I do like the extra peripheral on this. If you're playing a game like Battlefield and you're flying around or whatever, you've got, man, you can see for days. So you can see our FPS in the top right, we're pretty much just stuck to 60, at least here inside the test range. Trying to see if I can just get that number to fluctuate at all. So, but that's all right though. I mean, 60 FPS is extremely smooth when it's locked there. When you crash into buildings like that, your FPS matters. It's extremely smooth. This doesn't feel like standard 60 FPS like with a regular VSync. It certainly is smooth. I mean, the 290X is definitely doing its job and pushing all these pixels, and FreeSync is clearly doing its job in terms of keeping the FPS completely locked. I mean, make sure my head's not blocking that number. But yeah, as you can see, it is definitely, I mean, I'm not seeing any tearing on the screen whatsoever. I do have motion blur turned up. People are always like, Jay, why do you run motion blur? I like motion blur. Let's see, FOV 50. Fine. Everyone's always like FOV 70, FOV 70, so let's do that. And let's go ahead and turn motion blur down, off. See, I don't like this FOV. It's all fisheye looking. So that's a personal preference personally, but as you can see, it makes no difference at all to the FPS. It's still extremely smooth. Let's see if I can ping this guy to the sky. So close. I want to hit this guy. Nope, that's gonna miss. Oh, I got him. Never mind. Hit his wing. So here it is with FOV 70. I personally don't like FOV 70. It feels very fisheye to me, but that's just a personal thing. Well, clearly Tomb Raider is capable of rendering out the entire game across the monitor without stretching it out or requiring any sort of modification to any files. I am noticing that there appears to be a little bit of stuttering here and there. Graphics card's starting to... I'm going to jump in the water and die. Graphics card's starting to actually ramp up a bit. Temperatures are probably really hot on that 290X. But VSync is off, so let's put it to double buffer. Even though the panel should be doing the work, I don't think it matters. But it did indeed just smooth out quite a bit. Pretty certain if I jump in there, I'm going to die. Let's see. Oh no, she made it. Yeah, this is an amazing aspect ratio, especially for games like this. I mean, the amount of peripheral view you have, especially for games like this where you need to see around to the sides. Say hello to my little friend. Yeah. She got a gun and she pissed. Now, I totally thought I had a game here that was not going to be able to take advantage of the aspect ratio, and that was Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Considering the age of the game, the age of source and all that, I figured there was no way that this game would have been set up to actually utilize 21:9, especially since it's not in the map. It's not in the settings. You have to use, yeah, look at this. You have to use 16:9 in the settings. Let's go. As you can see here, it's under 16:9, but the resolution shows up 2560 by 1080. So, yeah, it's actually able to utilize this, and I wonder if this is something that would give someone a competitive edge to have a little bit more peripheral in a FPS like this. I'm totally dead. But as you can see, Counter-Strike Global Offensive uses 21:9. Well, alrighty then. So I find myself in a pretty interesting position here with the 34UM67 from LG. And that is that I love the aspect ratio. From a productivity perspective, the amount of real estate you have, but how compact it is on your desk versus running some sort of an NV surround or an Infinity setup. And the fact that games do seem to be utilizing it pretty well, and those titles that aren't are being updated constantly for you to be able to utilize 21:9, or there's registry hacks as well that are available to use. But my real major flaw with this panel, and the one thing that I just can't seem to get past for me, is that 1080 resolution. I've been using 1440p panels and 4K panels now to the point to where going back to a 1080p vertical resolution, just, I don't think I can do it. I'm so used to looking to that QHD or UHD now to the point to where 1080 like this, I can see the pixels. Even sitting at a good 3 feet away, I can see the pixels, and it bothers me. I'm used to not seeing pixels anymore. FreeSync is doing a very good job at keeping the frame timing very consistent so there's no stuttering, lagging, or tearing. Of course, I am running a 290X with it. It's not overclocked, by the way. This is the stock settings for the Matrix, and I am running it with the 5820K and a Intel setup, but you might start running into problems with lower end graphics cards where if it's not able to drive that many pixels, because there is quite a bit more pixels in this than there is in 1920 by 1080, you're going to find that lower end graphics cards are going to start bumping down underneath that 48 Hertz FreeSync refresh rate, where then it just turns into a standard, the way LCD crystals refresh, and there could be tearing even down at that low refresh rate. But the fact that it's a 1080p vertical for me is just, It's one of the reasons why I can't make this my main panel. I'm still using the 1440p Swift, 28-inch Swift as my main panel on Skunkworks over here. And I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon, especially since I'm running NVIDIA graphics cards on the main system. I would lose out on the FreeSync on this entirely. So it would be a little bit wasted on Skunkworks. But I do think it fits perfectly right here. It fits perfectly underneath the shelf, perfect width between the edge of the desk and the test bench. It's got a pretty nice home. I just have to find a place to hook up the Acer, maybe wall mounted up there or something. The 280HK 4K 1 millisecond panel. Yeah, that's pretty insane. So what do you guys think of the 21:9 aspect ratio? Sound off down in the comments or hit me up on Twitter if you guys want to tell me what you think about this. I think this is probably going to be one of the aspect ratios of the future. We've seen them becoming more and more prevalent, especially since CES this year. And especially with the curve technology now, I do see a lot of people going with this type of format. I could certainly see myself running one of these as a main panel if I wasn't already surrounded by LCD technology everywhere. All right, guys, well, thanks for watching today's video. Sorry the content quality isn't as high as I would have liked. Now that I'm full-time, officially, last day has already been put in. I can start working on upping the quality of the content that I give you guys. Not upping the quantity, but upping the quality so that you guys can have a great time here on the channel. As always, guys, thanks for watching.
I really shouldn't be making a video right now because I feel like crap. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but I'm giving you at least a little bit of an excuse as to why I sound this way, but I still wanted to make a video for you guys. So I figured, I know I said I wasn't going to do a build log.
And I'm still not doing a build log. I'm keeping my promise on that.